shuffled some guys around and got them into the fit that fits best for us. Again, just get into that rhythm of what's happening. I mean, some guys have played, but now that they're seniors, that expectation on their shoulders is much higher, and so they got to, it takes some time to meet it. And again, each week they're just doing that. We call it stacking. They're stacking more of those reps and those experiences on, and they're getting better week to week.
The council is now in session.
With a personality shaped by being an athlete and a background in mainstream sports media, I found that the stories I was most interested in telling were the ones often overlooked, the ones that might not otherwise be told, the ones that show the intangible and not just the highlight reel. The Sports Council is about highlighting the great, the good, the unique, and everything in between in the Pacific Northwest sports world. I'm Jamie Council. Thanks for joining me.
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-Cities leader in sports.
I am Scott Bond, head coach at Chiawana High School. Been to Chiawana since the day it opened, so we're going on, 15 years I think it is?
15 years, yeah, because it opened in 2009, and so it's hard to know where the football season lands in there. And I know we've had this conversation multiple times, but tell me about your progression, that it's past the city of Pasco, and sports is very interesting with new schools popping up.
Right. No, I'm born and raised here in Pasco. Actually played for Steve Graff, my mentor back when I was in high school, and then we had the luxury of being hired by him when I got out of high school or got out of college, and coached for him until he retired a couple years ago, and that's been my progression. Again, Pasco athletics, the town has always been very supportive. I know when we split, it kind of was a change, but it's been good for Chiawana.
Absolutely, and it seemed like Chiawana, Kamiakin constantly splitting turns, taking their share of the MCC. What do you attribute the success that Chiawana has seen?
Well, again, it was a carryover from what Steve built at Pasco. There was a lot of success there, and then when we transferred out here, the whole coaching staff came, and that expectation of what that program was just kind of came with us, and so that's been it. It's the expectation is that you are going to be playing for those championships each year. Now, it doesn't happen every year, but that is the expectation.
It's funny when you take a look at different teams around the MCC, what you can always expect from them, and sometimes they live up to different expectations, but Kamiakin, you're always expecting that high-powered offense, kind of the same thing from Richland in the past game. And for Chiawana, it's kind of like a defense or just the ability to win games.
100%. Again, I'm going to go back to Steve again, a defensive coach. Early in our Chiawana seasons, Don Hogue took over the defense here and has done a fabulous job, again, of just creating a defense that causes people fits. It's not fun to play against in practice. It's not fun to, I know it can't be fun to prepare for in game time. So him and the defensive staff have just always done a great job of their expectation of what physical football is.
And right now, you are undefeated in MCC play, one of two teams undefeated, Kennewick being the other one. How have you felt thus far through season? Of course, having a goose egg in the loss column is always a good thing.
Right. Well, we went down and played a really tough team the very first game down in Idaho, which was, again, a non-league game, but it was a good tune-up for us. And we got tuned up, and so
that was going to be my next.
Yeah, well, and it is. Yeah, well, it was good. It wasn't a jamboree, but I jokingly to the kids, I said, "Hey, man, there's nothing hurt, right, for us. It was kind of like a jamboree for us. We go down and figure out the things that we needed to get fixed, and you saw the play, the level of play that we want to be at, and so they responded in week 2, and again, we had a really good performance against Kamiakin, and just have kind of been going each day, and I'll talk about stacking those days, and we've been doing a good job of stacking them. So
I think if you take a look at the score of that game, a lot of people said, "Oh, Chiawana isn't good this year," and then to come back and beat Kamiakin and kind of put the building blocks. How do you guys approach it? Because both you and I know how important confidence and the ability to win is. So how did you guys face that loss of building from it, or like you said, kind of facing it at like a tune-up. How did you guys approach having that on your stat sheet?
We did. We looked at that first game as a tune-up, and we were preparing for Kamaikan, and we didn't. Not that it would have mattered. I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses, but our game plan for Rocky Mountain was our game plan that was going for Kamaikan, and it didn't quite match. And so, anyway, it happened. So we were prepared when we got to that Kamaikan game in that week of making those physical changes that we need to make, and then executing the game plan. So
kind of the whole mentality of game's over, flush it out onto next week.
On next week, yeah. And so then again, like you said, the league stuff really does matter. We know that Kamaikan game has had a huge impact in playoff seedings for the last few years, and so it always seems to come early in the season, and so you got to be prepared right off the bat. So,
and then knowing that you guys have some big matchups upcoming, 2 weeks is one. The entire MCC has their circle around with the two unbeatens, of course, being you guys and Kennewick. How do you feel that you've progressed the most from the beginning of the season to now?
We've shuffled some guys around and got them into the fit that fits best for us. Some changes. Again, just get into that rhythm of what's happening. I mean, some guys have played, but now that they're seniors, that expectation on their shoulders is much higher, and so they got to, it takes some time to meet it. And again, each week they're just doing that. We call it stacking. They're stacking more of those reps and those experiences on, and they're getting better week in and week out. So.
And the next question, it might be the same answer, but I said, what have you gotten better at as it's progressed to this point? But what are some leaps and bounds that you want to make from this point going on that maybe they've started to live up to those expectations, but now you can focus more on finite things? What is that for the Chiawana Riverhawks?
Well, again, it goes back to your question about defense. Our defense is just there. They're always going to be coming ready to play. So facing different offenses and then making just those slight adjustments for that. Offensively, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run, and Braxton is just, he's taken on a load that has been amazing, and the offensive line from Brian Kuhn, Brady Knowlton, Cody Iverson, Grady Gilbert, Landon Bolson. I mean, they're all 4 seniors and a junior, and he started last year, and so they're owning it now too, and so it's been great.
So you just mentioned some names. We're going to go over individual position groups and the players on the Chiawana Riverhawks, but first we're going to take a break. We're catching up with Scott Bond, head coach for the Chiawana Riverhawks. You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Where are you gonna go?
Krispy Kreme!
Yes! Krispy Kreme has Ghostbuster-themed Halloween donuts October 7th through the 31st. Stop by and pick up your supernatural dozen now. While you're here, grab 2 dozen original glazed to take to the office, just $24.99 daily. And schedule your fundraiser today to raise some dough for your organization. That's your local Krispy Kreme, 2805 Dupertail Street in Richland. Come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
Krispy Kreme! Inconveniences can happen at, inconvenient times. JRT Mechanical has plumbers and HVAC technicians available 24/7 if an emergency does arise. Or if you feel like your house isn't cooling like it used to, or if you're tired of a hose leaking from last winter's freeze, JRT is an honest, reliable company that's been in the Pacific Northwest for more than 3 decades. Give JRT Mechanical a call at 509-314-4314 or visit jrtmechanical.com.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
You're listening to Jamie Council on the Sports Council.
We're back on the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports, catching up with Scott Bond, head coach for Chiawana Riverhawk football. And we just kind of talked about what this season has looked like for you. You guys are sitting undefeated. And now let's get into some of those position groups of the players that make up this. And we'll start with the quarterback position.
Julian Martinez is our quarterback, senior. Stepped in last year when DJ Duran got injured in the second half of that season, and stepped in and did a great job. He won that job over the summer, or solidified his job over the summer, and he's done a great job of just managing and leading our team through these first few games. So each week we challenge him to be a little bit more assertive in the pass game, and so I think I'm looking forward for him to do that in the next couple weeks.
And how important were those games last year for him? Like you said, with Duran going down, you had the big game against Moses Lake that, you know, people weren't quite sure that you guys blew out of the water. How important were those reps for Martinez to win the job and come into this year with confidence?
Yeah, I mean, he was the epitome of what a high school or any backup quarterback. He was prepared. He prepared himself in meetings. Coach Simpkins did a great job of getting him prepared, and when the opportunity arose, he took it. And you know, it was great to have some of that stuff on, you know, those reps on your shoulders and able to carry it in. You know, it's when it is your job, when there's again more pressure and more expectations come, and so that's the stuff that you get in. Just like everybody, you have to stand up and meet those expectations. So that's what we're asking him to do this year.
And I would say it's fairly safe to say that you're a quarterback guy.
Mm-hmm. I'm a quarterback guy, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean that's what I played, and again, we sit in those meetings and talk about that stuff, what's needed at that position, and he's doing a fabulous job. So
yeah, what I meant by that is you played it as well as before the reins were handed off to you, kind of handled the quarterback
Correct.
Position. So with running the quarterbacks, what is something that, do you still mainly handle that position, or being head coach, how did that change for you? Because I think that was probably a big learning curve where now you're in charge of something more than just the quarterback.
When I became the head coach, I actually passed that off to Troy Simpkins, a guy that played quarterback for us here at Chiawana a few years back. Does a fabulous job. I still held on to the offensive coordinator job until this year, and I actually took the quarterbacks back because Coach Simpkins wanted to see some other positions and go coach wide receivers and do some things. So I took that quarterback job over and handed my offensive coordinator duties to a couple coaches, Mike Clayton and Robert Reed, and so we got co-coordinators, and they're doing a great job. So.
And we started this segment of let's talk about the kids, but now we're talking about the coaches. So how's that been going, where it's kind of a different setup, a different hierarchy inside the coaches at Chiawana?
It's offensively, it's been nice. I mean, I still have some say, and I'm still involved in the game planning stuff, but it's just nice to spread out a lot of those duties and have some guys with some experience. I mean, my staff is probably one of the most veteran around. I mean, we got guys that we've been together for 28 years. I know I've coached for 28. There's some guys that coached for 30. I mean, our nucleus is pretty long in the tooth.
So let's move on to other positions. We just talked about Martinez and his guy directly to his side, Braxton Feldman, been getting a lot of reps since he was a sophomore. What have you seen from him?
Oh, he's been defensive. He started on our defense since he was a freshman, and so I know in the last few years he's kind of been limited on the offensive reps just because of the wear and tear. But this year we've been riding him, and he's been doing a great job. I mean, last week 15 carries for 311 yards. I mean, I think it's a school record. We don't necessarily keep records, but I can't remember of anybody ever running for more in a game. So it's pretty impressive, and he's just, he's doing a fabulous job.
Yeah, I take a look at his stats, which is funny because I remember it being, when Mole was here, and you could always expect one pick six a game from Feldman, and now he's in a bit different of a role, but contributing nonetheless.
No, yeah, you give him the ball, and it's a chance. He's shown that he has the ability to take it to the house from anywhere. So it's been cool. It's been awesome.
And with the running backs and fullbacks, what's the rest of that picture look like for Chiawana?
Anthony Godino comes in and spells him when he does get that a little tired from playing both sides. And Anthony, same thing. He has a chance to score from anywhere, and he's done a fabulous job filling in there. We have a freshman, little Cooper Sisney, has gotten a few reps in there, and I think the first time he touched the ball this year, he took it 52 yards for a touchdown. So, I mean, the room is deep. The running back room is deep. Another guy that is in that room is Tristan Breyer, who, because of some lingering ankle injuries. He hasn't gotten many carries, but he's really the guy that he's the sprinter, he's the trackster that really has the home run threat. So I'd love to be able to get him some carries as well.
And of course, we know the Breyer name.
Yeah. They all have the bad feet.
You know, you can't have the good without the bad. And now moving on, you guys are known for more of a run team, but you mix in just enough of the pass game to spread teams out. So what does the pass game look like for you?
We've had the luxury of being able to take Cooper McPherson, who Defensive Player of the Year last year as a junior. So we know what kind of athlete he is in that way, and slot him into one of those wide receiver spots. Again, he's 6'2", 215 pounds, runs fast, jumps high, and so it's a threat out there. We can hand it to him, we can throw it to him, and so that's a luxury. And then just go down the line, we got Brooks Zaro, another senior, who we've moved inside, who is maybe not so much of the threat catching it, but we've used him as a blocker, and I'm not lying. Each week we turn on the film, it's just another pancake by Brooks and another one and another one, and he's starting to own it and like it. So as a coach or coaches, that's awesome when a receiver type will be in the mix and squaring up on linebackers. So that's a huge plus. We got a bunch of tight ends. Morgan Dodson Jr., who's also our kicker, who's a big threat, but him, Gage Williams, and then Tate and Sisney are our three tight ends that we use a lot. We're always usually in a 11 personnel or 12 personnel, and so they're in there and they can be spread out, and they're athletic enough to be threats. So it's a nice thing to have.
And talking about the threat of your run game, you wouldn't have that without your offensive line. So I think it was more of a question, more so last year than this year, with the graduation of your seniors, of what you guys would look like. And it seems like that's just a revolving door here at Chiawana.
Yeah, I mean, the five guys that are starting there for us, Brian started for 3 years. The left guard, is Brady Knowlton. He's a 2-year starter. Cody Iverson is our center, who was an undersized center last year, and he took a beating but kept fighting. Well, he got in the weight room and put on about 20 pounds, and just having the confidence of playing and being a senior, he's done a fabulous job. Right guard's Grady Gilbert, who's started for 2 years, and then Landon Bolson's our right tackle, who also starts on defense and is terror over there, and again, having that experience there is a huge plus in high school football. So
a lot of the names that you're mentioning, Breyer, Somerville, Sisney, you hear those names more so on defense, where your players must be in incredible shape because you expect so much of them on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that is what high school football is about. We don't have the luxury of being able to go 2 platoon. I mean, I know we're the biggest high school in the state of Washington, but we still just pull from the same amount we've always pulled for here. And so, yeah, kids are expected to put the best product on the field, and if you're the best player at any position, you're going to play. Now we got to be smart and get you some breaks here, and we do have a bunch of guys that are able to spell them and do that, and so it's nice.
So now that we're talking about defense, let's move into some of those defensive positions. We just talked about the offensive line. What about the defensive line?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's got to start with our linebacker group, and the way we play is Cooper McPherson coming back is, again, he's a terror. Coaches talk about. I mean, I've heard the quotes that he's best they've seen in 25 years. Don't listen to that, Cooper, but I mean, he is. He brings an athletic ability and just an explosiveness that we haven't seen in a while. Then you go into their defensive line. One of the guys that's probably surprising people is our little nose guard, Ethan Elward, who's just a little ball of energy, and he's quick and he's strong, and he causes a lot of problems in there down the line. Brady Knowlton's been getting a lot. Landon, like I said, he's out there. Brian Kuhn, they're starting out there. I mean, so as you just said, these names are flip-flopping from both sides, and they're a terror. They're a terror.
And then moving to the DBs, I think one of the most exciting players was watching the Webbers, and I know there was more than one of them. And then we talked about Braxton Feldman, of expecting a pick six from him almost every game or something to that nature. So how do you guys approach that? You're kind of a headache for other teams on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, that secondary, again, the way we're playing and the way their Coach Somerville and Coach Simpkins do a fabulous job of getting those guys ready and having them understand what other teams are trying to take advantage of, and we play right in, getting them to play into our hands so that we're in positions to attack some of those balls. Sawyer Somerville's a sophomore, and he stepped in and has done a great job. That's two of the most amazing picks I've seen in a while this year. One against Kamai, one against Hanford, just swiped him from nowhere, and Tristan Byers, again, back there, that's where we're using him, trying to save some of that time, and he's done a great job. Brooke Zaro's back in there, and then starting a true freshman. Not a true freshman. High school only has true freshmen. We're not college. Starting a freshman.
Hey, he's a true freshman nonetheless.
Right. That's right. Cooper Sisney, and again, another one of those names that you've heard for a long time. And he's a legit player. He's been in the starting lineup since the day we started in the spring. So it's cool. It's cool.
Well, we're going to chat a little bit more about the MCC, as well as you mentioned Chiawana being the biggest high school in the state of Washington, but next year that won't be the case. So we'll chat about a couple things from around the Tri-Cities football. Again, we're catching up with head coach of Chiawana High School football, Scott Bond. You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Inconveniences can happen at, inconvenient times. JRT Mechanical has plumbers and HVAC technicians available 24/7 if an emergency does arise. Or if you feel like your house isn't cooling like it used to, or if you're tired of a hose leaking from last winter's freeze, JRT is an honest, reliable company that's been in the Pacific Northwest for more than 3 decades. Give JRT Mechanical a call at 509-314-4314 or visit jrtmechanical.com.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
Where are you gonna go?
Krispy Kreme!
Yes! Krispy Kreme has Ghostbuster-themed Halloween donuts October 7th through the 31st. Stop by and pick up your supernatural dozen now. While you're here, grab 2 dozen original glazed to take to the office, just $24.99 daily. And schedule your fundraiser today to raise some dough for your organization. That's your local Krispy Kreme, 2805 Dupertail Street in Richland. Come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
Krispy Kreme!
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-Cities leader in sports.
We're back on 1340. You're listening to the Sports Council. We're catching up with Scott Bond, head coach of Chiawana football. So we talked about the team this year. You guys are undefeated and have some big matchups coming up. So I don't want to overlook this week, but also Kennewick is a big one on your schedule.
Yeah, again, the MCC, it's awesome to be in because you do have to play week in, week out. And so we're not looking past this week. We'll get to those guys when they get here, but one thing about it, we do know what each team brings, and so you're always thinking as you go through this season, what's coming up. So looking forward to those, what's to come.
And the MCC, you mentioned with the coaches at Chiawana, some of them having 3 decades of experience under their belt, but same can be said for a lot of these programs throughout Tri-Cities. So talk about the level of football that the MCC is a tough league to play in, and you guys know each other like the back of your hand, which doesn't make it much easier either.
Yeah, we talk about coaches all the time when we go to football camp. We don't want to play each other. You know, we're always asking if we can play other people. This year it didn't work out. Coach Jelnick did a great job of putting a camp together in the summer, and so who did we play? We played Kamaikan, and we played Richland, you know. And it's just what it is. And so, yeah, you do know them. They're all great guys. Love talking to them, you know, on the outside of the season, and a lot of respect for all of them.
And we talked about this a little bit before this interview started with the new high school coming in Pasco. How does that affect you and your role as trying to run a football program?
Yeah, you know, I don't know what it holds. I kind of have an idea of where my kids live and our boundaries, and so it'll be interesting to see what when it truly happens, who's who and who's where. All I can do is, again, coach the guys that are here and prepare and be ready for the next whatever comes and who's here, and as we go throughout the next season. So
yeah, I feel like in that equation there's a lot of unanswered questions that you don't know what you don't know, and Chiawana is still kind of a newer high school, but is there any fear that people will want to go to what's newer and better, kind of what you saw when Chiawana opened, and that you saw the movement from Pasco to Chiawana?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. The new and flashy is always exciting. I do know that here at Chiawana, that most of the head coaches for athletics are going to stay, and so that's always nice to have it stay normal or whatever, you know, and so maybe that'll be a pull too. I don't know, you know. So we'll see how it shapes out as we get closer to this winter and spring and into summer. So.
Yeah, and the biggest question marks, which is who will you have on your field, you kind of know with the boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, I've penciled out addresses and know where they hang out in the town, and so I do know, like our freshmen, it's split half and half. You know, half of our 40 freshmen are in boundary for Chiawana, and half of them are in boundary for Sageview. So how that unfolds.
And I guess this might be a question that I don't really know, but you've seen movements of schools like Kamaikan moving from 3A to 4A. Would that open up any questions with the size of the school any change in classification?
I think the numbers that the district has put out, I don't think there's going to be any chance that any of our schools drop down, from what I can see. But you know, the interesting part of all of this is that our first game next year is against Sageview, and so that'll be a really interesting time. Their first game, their first varsity game. You know, our game open up a new season will be the battle of the new rivals, I guess.
Battle of the new and battle of the newer and flashier.
Yeah.
And will they play at Edgar Brown?
Yeah, sure we will. Yeah.
Okay, so that will be very interesting. A lot of this I just don't know, so thank you for filling me and many others in at least I knew that there would be a new school built. Yeah. So for those that are listening, there will be a high school added to Pasco, and how it might affect the Chiawana football program. I know in the coming years a school will be added to Richland, so you won't be the only one in the hot seat.
All right.
And as a coach, you've been here since the school opened. What else is on your bucket list? What do you want to accomplish as head coach of the Chiawana Riverhawks?
Again, I really enjoy doing this. Talking about the coaching staff, I mean, some of the guys that have been around for a long time, they're probably getting close to being done, but we have about 3 or 4, actually 5 young kids that have played for us and that are now back coaching, which again makes it even more exciting because they're excited. They bring that energy that maybe we have lost a little bit, and so it's really exciting, and I just enjoy it. I love high school sports. I love high school football. So each year I just get excited.
Well, I'm excited for you. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you very much.
The Chiawana Riverhawks dropped a 42-8 decision to open up the season against Rocky Mountain but have since beaten Kamiakin 44-0 and have only allowed 7 points against conference opponents currently ranked top 10 in the state of Washington in RPI. The Riverhawks face Pasco Friday, October 11th at Edgar Brown, and face currently undefeated Kennewick on October 18th at home to see who might take the inside track to the MCC. Kickoffs are at 7 p.m. Well, that wrap up this week's show of the Sports Council. You can listen to the show not just over the airwaves at 11:30 on Thursdays, but also on demand at 1340ESPNradio.com via podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Sports Council, and it's also available via YouTube. So lots of ways to listen to the Sports Council and support our local sports community. Until next time, I'm Jamie Council. Now we go back to your originally scheduled Seattle sports programming.